Ms. Bunn.
Thank you and good afternoon. So I just want to make a couple of points because I think most of the speakers have addressed a variety of the sub-issues that are part of this overall panel. But, you know, all of them combined do two things, I think. They foster uniformity in the process, and they eliminate unnecessary delay. Not all delay, but unnecessary delay. And this, to us, it has the salutary effect of reducing gamesmanship and, again, unnecessary delay that's inherent in the current system. So on both of those points, why is that important? I think there's a couple of reasons. One, employers take advantage of delay. Not all employers, but too many employers. There's research, academic research, that demonstrates this, and I know Dr. Brafenbrenner will be speaking tomorrow. There's also the book, Confessions of a Union Buster, in which Martin Levitt states, the beauty of such legal tactics, referring to bargaining unit challenges, quote, is that they are effective in damaging the union effort, no matter which side prevails. Delay steals momentum from a union organizing drive, close quote. The longer the delay, the longer the employer campaign persists. Unnecessary delay has real-life consequences to employees. But there's a second reason, and that has to do with eliminating frivolous and unnecessary litigation in order to wrest control back into the hands of the government, the board, and taking some of the control of the timing of the election away from the employer. A board election is intended to be an orderly democratic process by which the government ensures that employees have a right to choose to be represented or not. When the control over the timing of the election is tilted too much in favor of the employer, workers lose faith in the process and democracy suffers. I've been involved in a lot of organizing campaigns. In every single one in which I have been involved, one of the very first questions, if not the first question that a worker asks is, when will the election be held? And every time, the organizer must painfully explain that the question cannot be answered. It could be 30 days, it could be 90 days, and it could be years. When the worker understandably asks, okay, what factors govern how long it's going to take? Again, the organizer has to answer, it depends on the extent to which the employer wants to delay and what region the petition has been filed in. The proposed rules would result in a more uniform answer to that question. It returns to the board a greater control of the process while affording due process rights to the employer.
Thank you.
I'm just going to speak very quickly. We just got a couple of minutes and the panel's already over time. I just had a couple of issues that I wanted to address. One is this question of the supervisory status question and questions of deferring eligibility and inclusion, exclusion for 20% less of the unit. Under the current rule is simply that those issues have to be litigated prior to the election, but not decided. And in often cases, those issues are, the regional director defers the decision until after the election. And also petitions for review are filed. So that question, in those instances, remains open even while the ballot takes place. And as far as the union taint issue goes, or tainting of the showing of interest goes, the unions they always deal with that issue because that issue exists throughout the campaign, throughout the collection of the cards, up until that question is finally determined. So at the entire campaign period, the union has to deal with that issue, and they know how to deal with those issues. As far as the offer of proof question, I just wanted to point to one of the findings within the survey I talked about earlier, and that's that 35% of the attorneys that responded to our survey said that they were involved in pre-election hearings where the hearing officer allowed a company to introduce evidence that had the hearing officer taken offers of proof, they likely would not have been able to introduce any of that evidence. One of the examples that was provided to us was very similar to the one that Gay provided earlier, in which employer raised the same issues in a pre-election hearing that it had lost in a number of different regions throughout the country. An offer of proof in that situation would have alerted the hearing officer and the regional director that the only issues that the company was looking to raise were issues that had already been decided by other regions. And two other quick points I wanted to raise about our survey. One goes to the idea of unions stipulating to avoid litigation at hearings. 89% of attorneys who responded to our survey reported that their clients at some point had agreed to concessions to reach a stipulation in order to avoid unnecessary litigation. And one other thing was that 76% of attorneys who have been in this situation, said they've been able to resolve eligibility issues post-election through bargaining.
Thank you.
Just two things.
All right.
All right, 30 seconds. You mentioned that the unions typically know how to deal with issues of indeterminacy in terms of these exclusions, confidential, managerial, supervisory, things like that. I mean, how would you respond to the argument by some commenters, well, that's because you're the repeat players in here, you know how to do this from long practice, whereas you might have an employer who has no idea because they're not represented or they haven't been through enough representation campaigns?
I mean, I think it's not necessarily that the unions are repeat players. They're just cautious. They understand what the implications might be, and again, I think this goes back to the question that was or the issue that was discussed on the earlier panel, which is that employers do have access to resources and counsel to answer these questions quickly, and much quicker than I think is being discussed here. And so I think those questions the employers can get those questions answered to the best degree as they are going to be answered, I understand. But can get counsel and advice on those issues quickly.
Okay, and one last thing, and I'm sorry I've not done a line by line of your survey. I promise that I will. Did you do anything to control for confirmation bias? Because it seemed...
No, I mean, we admit that it was a survey that was put together quickly and is mostly to give you an idea of what practitioners are reporting that they are experiencing.
Thank you very much.